Our 7-day Upper Mississippi River Cruise begins here in St. Paul, Minnesota, on the Mississippi River. And we are fortunate in that the tree leaf changing is underway. We are on a 7-day cruise down the Mississippi from Red Wing to Alton, Illinois. The Riverboat Cruise starts with a night at the capital of Minnesota, St. Paul. While in St. Paul, one stays at the #1 hotel in town, the St. Paul Hotel, built in 1910, 254 rooms. Step 1 is to board the buses for a 1-hour ride to Red Wing, Minnesota. We have arrived at Red Wing. After the American Melody, built in Chesapeake, Maryland, was launched in August 2021. This ship is on its 5th cruise since being launched, and there are 4 buses that accompany the ship everywhere and provide all the transportation. Our cabin is on the 3rd deck, 5 cabins from the stern, 333. Right there. As one enters and leaves the ship, one scans here, and the ship now has me back on board. The first thing you see is this beautiful atrium stairway. Here's where you pick up your maps of the cities. This is where the purser's office is. And this is the main dining room. One climbs up the stairway, comes to the top of this first sculpture. There are lounges on every deck. The second deck lounge is quite pretty. From these lounges, one can go outside and check the temperature out. Towards the stern of the second deck is a 3-machine laundry room. All free, everything provided. There's a barely used, if at all, yoga room and a fitness center, but very few machines.
An outline of our next day. So you can plan out your day. On the front here, you're going to see all of the information you need to know in regards to the weather, so you can dress appropriately for your excursions. Our docking location, the phone numbers, and I really want to stress this, the phone numbers for your crew members are on your ship to shore.
As the sun comes out in Red Wing, looking at American Cruise Line's sister ship, the America, we're getting ready to set sail down the Mississippi. Across the Mississippi is Wisconsin. Those little things in the water show you the channel. As long as you stay between them, the water is guaranteed 9 feet deep. Today at 5:30, there are light appetizers.
This is the moment to get on that. I'll pause for 3 seconds.
Even some really famous artists like Picasso and Monet and Manet and Renoir. Really cool, and it's all water themed. There's also going to be a treat for you on the bus from the famous Blodow Bakery.
Down the river, afraid I said she'd been there, but she's gone, Sonny's gone. When I found the train in Memphis, but she just walked up the bluff.
As we depart Winona, it's to music. Along the Mississippi are just gorgeous, as the leaves are about 2 weeks from perfection. There are 27 locks on the Mississippi between St. Paul and St. Louis, and this is one of them. The locks are not meant for flood control, they're only meant for navigation, to slow the river down enough to keep the channel, 9-foot deep channel, open. The locks all have fancy names. This is lock number 6, Trempilio, Wisconsin. The flag is flying at half-mast because the governor of Wisconsin has ordered it at half-mast this weekend to honor firefighters and policemen. After leaving the 3rd lock that we've gone through so far on this trip, we continue down the Mississippi towards Dubuque, Iowa.
I remember what a night. Oh, what a night.
night.
Eyes over you, you'd be like heaven to touch. I wanna hold you so much.
Sunday, day 4, begins at sunrise. The upper Mississippi barges are limited to 15 barges filled with what looks to be coal in the barges, going through a railroad bridge that opens to the side, and the vehicle pushing the barges is called a tower. It's about 8:30 in the morning and we are arriving 2.5 hours early. There is the famous lead tower where all the mini balls used in the Civil War for the northern side were produced. They dropped the molten lead at the top, and by it got to the bottom it had formed into a perfect mini ball to put in the muskets. And the railroad bridge we crossed entering into Davenport is now closing, and it appears we're going to ground ourselves on that sandy part there and disembark from the front of the ship. Here in Dubuque, the ship is docked right on the sand, and here's a sign listing the sister cities of Dubuque. We're going to start with a tour of the museum because our tour this afternoon doesn't include this stop. The question is, are there fish in the Mississippi River? And the answer is, in the upper Mississippi, these are some of them.
Delightful excursion. It's a lot of places to stop, and it's really, really awesome.
A fun thing to do in Dubuque is to take the elevator train, the Franklin Pierce elevator train, up to his house at the top of the hill. It's a great way for tourists to get to the top of the hill, that's for sure. Our tour of Davenport begins at the workshop of Isabel Bloom, who is famous for concrete sculptures. This is the Hugging sculpture. The Hugging for Children statue sells for $240 in their smaller versions. Oh yes, it weighs 60 pounds as well. The boat is docked right at the first bridge to ever cross the Mississippi River, built in the 1850s. Davenport, Iowa itself is the home of John Deere. Well, actually it's in Moline, about 3 or 4 miles away. And up on the bluffs, rising from the river, are all of the elegant mansions built in the 1880s or so. Continuing with the ship's tour on deck 3. In the bow, there's the River Lounge. Snacks and coffee 24/7. Open bar during happy hour starting 5:30 to 7:30. And this is also where the evening's entertainment takes place. On the 4th deck in the stern is another lounge where you can get an early breakfast, a much quieter lounge. And out on the back deck is the alternate dining area. Hamburgers, pizzas, wraps. And finally on deck 5 is a beautiful walking track and shuffleboard and chairs. And because this is the American Melody, after all, up on here you can hear melodies and music playing. And I can tell you this walk track is skid proof, so you can walk on it in the rain without worrying about falling. Next stop, Fort Madison, Iowa. As the sun starts to set, it's happy hour. Music, anything you want, drinks. We're coming up to the lock, and there's a tow. The barge in front of us is now leaving the lock, and then we need to rise back up about 6 feet, and our turn will come. The tow vehicle is revved up its engine, and the barge, the 15-car 15 barges are moving forward very slowly through the lock. And the gates are slowly closing. And once it gets to the top, it'll be our turn. And there is the bridge closing. So as the bridge reopens and they fill the lock for us, it's time for dinner. It's open seating. Table is dressed with fresh made bread. A beautiful sunrise, Tuesday, 12 October, and we are getting ready to dock in Fort Madison, Iowa. But the river was too high in Fort Madison, so we have set sail, slowly heading towards Hannibal, Missouri, which gives us a day at sea. This far north, there are no levees along the water, so when it floods, it's going to flood. And there are all kinds of interesting things to see along the shore and wonder, what is that? And as one cruises down the Mississippi River, in this case we're almost to Hannibal, Missouri, one can see how brown the water has gotten, and this is the typical scenes along the banks. To get to room 333, one comes down this hallway from the stairs and enters this 350 square foot cabin. And this is the room after we've been in it for about 5 days. One can see with the luggage put away, there's really a lot of space. A TV set with many channels, all you're going to need. The pumpkin flower arrangement, since we're near Halloween, is optional. Burning next to the bathroom. A dual action shower with good water flow, though it takes a while to get the water heated.
Lazy river, sing your song. Yeah, it's a way, Dixie, steady as we go, all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico.
Wednesday morning brings us to Hannibal, Missouri, the home of Mark Twain. About 2 blocks away is our riverboat, and everything in the story is located right here. This is where Mark Twain grew up. Here's the fence that was whitewashed. Here's Becky Thatcher's house. There are only a few authentic buildings here, and this Grant's drugstore is one of them. The building was built in Cincinnati, disassembled, hauled down the Mississippi, and reassembled in 1848. One tourist shop after another, but very pretty. Now we go into the current Planters Barn Theater, where Abraham Lincoln housed his mules once upon a time.
Samuel Langhorne Clemens. That was the 30th of November in 1835.
And as we cross the railroad tracks, the Mark Twain tour has ended. Now for a quick look at the Radcliffe Mansion, built 1900. Finest house in Hannibal. This is a Tiffany window, cost $300 in 1900, about 2 years' wages for the average person. This is the kitchen, a very modern 1900 stove. We're now in the fireplace in the ballroom. There's the stage for the musicians. This is where people sat down between dances. We're swiveling around and getting ready to say goodbye to Hannibal. There's the Mark Twain party boat. And shortly we'll be heading down the Mississippi to our last stop at Alton. There are 3 locks between Hannibal and Alton. So they are moving our evening snacks into position, which starts around 5:30 every night, accompanied by John on the piano. Get mushrooms and hummus pita and chips and very spicy chicken dip. Every night at dinner, the napkins get folded differently. This is an interesting petal formation. Dinner is half a cod and half a leg of lamb. It's called the combo.
Say that song, baby. I wanna hold your hand. I wanna hold your hand. I wanna hold your hand.
The final full day on board the ship en route to Alton begins in the rain. There's where the Illinois River enters the Mississippi, right there. And we are now closely approaching the town of Alton, Illinois. And as we are getting ready to dock, this could be a good place as any to say this is the end of the 7-day cruise.
Bring back those riverboat days, good old riverboat days. I wanna cool my feet in the Mississippi water and dance polka with the captain's daughter. Riverboat days, good old riverboat days on the mighty Mississippi. Those good old riverboat days.